Hello and welcome to another Sequire Spotlight. I'm Jonathan Miller, your host and Vice President of Business Development for Shrax. Today I'm speaking with George Achilleos, CEO of NetraMark Holdings, ticker symbol AINMF on the OTC markets. NetraMark focuses on developing artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions for pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies in Canada. George, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and your background and how you came to be involved with NetraMark?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate that. As far as my background goes, many years in tech, started in the 90s at IBM, probably about 6 years there. Then from there, I went on to an entrepreneurial lifestyle in areas such as nanotechnology, e-commerce, digital strategy, an assortment of media companies, et cetera, really focused on building structure within companies and bringing companies to market. I got involved with this as I knew some of the key financiers, started as an advisor and became CEO of the company about 12 months ago.
Excellent. And can you elaborate a little bit more on what it is you're specifically working on at NetraMark? What industry specifically?
Yeah, thanks. Specifically, we work in the pharmaceutical space, and what we are doing is we build a set of algorithms, AI-based algorithms that work in the clinical trial space. One of the main problems that exists in the pharmaceutical industry is what is referred to as a 10% threshold. Essentially, 10% of drugs make it through, or candidate medicines make it through the clinical trial process through to commercialization. So as you can imagine, that's a very low success rate. And so what we've done is, and Dr. Joe Geraci, who is the founder of the business and a PhD mathematician, has spent the last 10 years building algorithms to specifically ingest the small data sets that would come out of a phase 1 or a phase 2 of a clinical trial, ingest those data sets to help with what we call patient stratification, and help identify the specific recruitment criteria that a pharma company would need to go into the next phase of the clinical trial and help ultimately identify responders to a potential candidate medicine.
Wow. It sounds like a really big market. How big exactly is this space?
Yeah, if you look at the clinical trial space, just in the last 12 months alone, there was over 5,000 interventional clinical studies, so lots of studies. If you look at the number of cumulative clinical trials over the last 10, 12 years, we're talking 399,000 clinical trials, a lot of clinical trials, huge market. If you look at the R&D expenditures in phase 1, phase 2, and 3 US dollars, we're talking over $40 billion. So there is a massive amount of capital that's invested into R&D. There's a lot of risk capital, especially when you're coming out of phase 2 and going into phase 3. You can imagine the last thing a pharmaceutical company wants to do is get all the way to phase 3 and then fail a clinical trial. So any solutions that can help with that would be well received by the market. And specifically now, as we're looking at essentially the year of AI, using AI technology to solve some of those success problems that exist in the pharmaceutical industry is really quite an amazing market to be a part of.
It sounds like. And what are some of the biggest challenges that you face when trying to solve these problems?
The biggest challenge is that AI typically thrives on really large data sets. So you can imagine when you get into the clinical trial space, over 95% of the trials have less than 1,000 participants, and many have 100 or 200 or 300 participants when you're going into phase 2 and phase 3. So in the world of AI, that's considered a small data set, which often causes challenges for algorithms. And that's where Dr. Joe Geraci spent the last 10 years specifically working on building algorithms and training algorithms to ingest pharmaceutical related data with small data sets to come up with statistically relevant fingerprints of what would be the key recruitment and enrichment criteria for the next phase of a clinical trial. So the small data sets is really the largest problem that we've worked on and are really focused on solving and have been for almost 10 years now. The company acquired the company, NetraMark, approximately a little over a year and a half ago. And that's where we're really all chips in, focused in on that asset.
Excellent. And what is the approach to the problems, as you mentioned, these smaller data sets? Is it a technology first approach, AI first approach?
Yeah, 100%. Our focus is on the underlying algorithms built by Dr. Joe Geraci. So very much a technology stack. Just to be clear, the technology is built. This is not something where we're fantasizing about AI technology that could solve this problem in the future. The technology is built. We're in commercialization mode, and it's very much an AI tech stack that we've built to solve this problem.
And how do you validate that the tech works?
Yeah, the validation is very important in this space. And what we've done is gone the route of what we call white papers and publications. So what we do is we go out and we get either publicly available data in the pharmaceutical industry or data that we can source from other mechanisms. We run that data through our system, and often these are other publications where the results have already been publicized. We take that data, we source it, and then we run it through our system and we show, hey, here's the traditional data science and what it found. Here's what NetraMark and our tech stack found. And it often found what was discovered by the previous publication. But what we really is the exciting part is we're able to put a spotlight onto an entire set of recruitment and enrichment criteria that were not found by other traditional data science methods that pharmaceutical companies use. So really, it's very intensive in the white paper publication part of the equation to validate out the technology. And we've got about 8 white papers that are in the process of, some are published and some are to be published. So lots of data sets now that have validated the technology and the efficacy of the technology.
That's excellent. So we talked about the industry a little bit, some of the problems in the industry, some of the challenges you face when trying to solve these problems. Can you tell us a little bit more about the human capital, the team you have working on this?
Yeah, we've got an amazing team. So I went and recruited essentially a whole new management team for this business. Dr. Joe Geraci is our Chief Technology, Chief Science Officer. He's a PhD mathematician. So as you can imagine, he is at the core, the brains of the algorithms. We've also brought in Dr. DJ Cook, who's a neurosurgeon who's built an AI company and has brought a drug to market, so understands the clinical trial process. He's our Chief Medical Officer. We've also got Dr. Luca Pani, who is our Chief Innovation and Regulatory Officer. He was the former Director General of the Italian Medicines Agency and managed a multi-billion-dollar budget. Any pharma company that wanted to work in Italy would have to go through Luca Pani's hands. He now resides in Washington and works closely with pharma companies. And then we also brought in Josh Spiegel as our president. He is fresh off a $330 million exit at a company called Vericide, WCG Clinical. Vericide was in the clinical trial space, so a lot of deep experience working with companies that are in the clinical trial space. So I couldn't have asked for a better management team to help us commercialize and bring this product to market.
Wow, sounds like you have some great individuals at the helm there. Is there anything on the immediate horizon that investors should keep an eye out for? Any big announcements maybe that you could speak to?
Yeah, there's 2 key things, honestly, that we're focused on right now. And that is, number 1, continue to put out publications. So there will be a continued news flow about different findings that we've found that will help people understand that, hey, this technology is valid. It works today. It's not a fantasy of something we're building. And the main next thing that we're focused on is building our sales pipeline. So in the next couple of months, you'll start to see sales begin to flow. We're working on bringing in a couple $1 million in revenue this fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends at September of 2023. One last thing that I do, Jonathan, want to add in that's very exciting about this space. I've been a part of a lot of different industries. The multiples in this space, if you look at them, are really unbelievable. Some of our competitive set, we're talking multiples in the 30 to 100 times revenue. So it's a really exciting space. You can see a company that, if we can get to $3 to $10 million in revenue, if you're talking 30 to 100 times revenue multiples, I think you're going to see a very exciting expansion in the performance of our company and the valuations of our company. And I think this is only going to accelerate over the next couple of years. I think AI is a macro trend that's here for quite some time. So you're going to see quite a lot of this over the coming months and years.
I totally agree. It's going to be really exciting to follow your journey. And what would be the best way for investors to keep up with the PR, the news, everything you have going on?
The best way is obviously to follow our stock. AINMF is the way to track our stock in the OTC. Also to go to our website, NetraMark.com. On there, you can go to the investors tab and you can sign up there to get newsletters and stay really involved with our company and what we're doing. and to put us on your ticker watch and to make sure you can see what's happening and all the great exciting ventures we've got coming up.
Excellent. And we will be sure to do that. Is there anything in closing you'd like to leave us with?
No, I think we've really covered it really at a very, very high level. We've got a business here that is a very clear problem that hasn't been solved for a long time. 10% of companies which have a candidate medicine make it through the clinical trial process. There are very few companies focused on using AI to solve this problem because the data sets are small. We've been working on that for upwards of 10 years. Dr. Joe Geraci has been working on that. And then if you marry that with the revenue pipeline that we'll have and the excessive multiples that are in this space, I think it's a really exciting space to be a part of.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And again, thank you for coming here today and sharing your story with us. Again, the company is NetraMark Holdings, ticker symbol AINMF. George, thank you so much for stopping by and have a great one.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.